10 famous people who died in the dumbest ways possible. History is full of brilliant minds, fearless leaders, and legendary icons who somehow managed to lose a fight against common sense. Today on Unserious History, we're honoring famous people who survived wars, politics, and fame, only to be taken out by the historical equivalent of a banana peel. Number 1. Aeschylus. Let's set the scene with a gentleman who probably thought he was going to die a hero, or at least gracefully in bed. Aeschylus was one of the fathers of Greek theater and a total big deal. He wrote about 80 plays and won tons of awards. You'd think a guy who mastered the dramatic arts would have a dramatic exit, right? Like being struck by lightning while delivering a powerful monologue, or maybe poisoned by a jealous rival. Nope. Aeschylus died in 456 BC when an eagle, apparently mistaking his bald head for a rock, dropped a tortoise on it. Let that sink in. A bird and a turtle. He literally got shelled by nature. Ironically, Aeschylus had been staying outdoors to avoid a prophecy that he would be killed by a falling object. I guess no one can really outrun destiny. Number 2. King Charles II of Navarre. King Charles II of Navarre lived a life so filled with betrayal and double-crossing that everyone called him Charles the Bad. But if his life was messy, his death was a total dumpster fire. In 1387, Charles was suffering from a debilitating illness that left him unable to move his limbs. His doctors prescribed a very specific treatment. He was to be sewn tightly in a linen cloth soaked in high-proof brandy to revitalize his body. Don't judge, this was 14th century medicine. One night, the nurse finishing the job realized she didn't have any scissors to cut the thread. Instead of, walking to the next room to find some, she decided to burn the thread off with a candle. You can guess what happens when you bring an open flame near a king who is literally a human brandy-soaked sponge. Whoosh! Charles didn't just die, he went up like a holiday pudding. Number 3. Tycho Brahe. Tycho Brahe was a legendary Danish astronomer with a fake nose made of gold and a pet moose. But in 1601, at a banquet in Prague, he realized he really had to pee. However, etiquette dictated that leaving the table before the host was an unforgivable insult. Tycho, being a polite gentleman, sat there for hours while his bladder reached critical mass. He developed a kidney infection and died 11 days later. For centuries, people thought he was poisoned, but a 2010 exhumation confirmed it. He literally died of politeness and a burst bladder. Number 4. Isadora Duncan. Isadora Duncan, the mother of modern dance, was known for her free-spirited nature and her signature look, incredibly long, flowing silk scarves. She was basically the personification of elegance until her accessories decided they'd had enough. On a breezy night in 1927, while riding in an open-top sports car in Nice, France, her magnificent hand-painted scarf got tangled in the spokes of the rear wheel. As the car sped off, the scarf tightened instantly, yanking her out of her seat and breaking her neck. It was a tragic freak accident, but also a grim reminder of why safety first usually beats fashion first. Her last words as she hopped into the car were reportedly, "Farewell, my friends, I go to glory." Glory? Not exactly, but she did go straight into the history books as the world's most dramatic victim of a wardrobe malfunction. Number 5. Attila the Hun. Attila was the Scourge of God, a man who made the Roman Empire shake in its sandals. You'd expect his death to involve a sword and a glorious battlefield. Instead, he died at his own wedding feast in 453 AD. After marrying a young woman named Ildiko, Attila got conqueror-level drunk. He passed out face down on his back and suffered a massive nosebleed. Because he was so intoxicated, he didn't wake up and ended up drowning in his own blood. The most feared man in Europe was defeated by a burst vessel and too much wine.
Number 6. William the Conqueror. The man who redefined England in 1066 met his end in a much less conquering way in 1087. While raiding the French town of Mantes, his horse stepped on some burning embers and reared up. William was thrown forward against the iron pommel of his saddle so hard that his intestines ruptured. It took him weeks to die in agony. To make it weirder, at his funeral, his body had bloated so much that when the monks tried to squeeze him into his stone sarcophagus, his stomach exploded, filling the church with a smell so foul, the mourners fled. Number 7. Pope Clement VII. Clement VII lived through the sack of Rome, but he couldn't survive a side dish. Now, popes typically have more spiritual ends, visions, peaceful passing, that sort of thing. Clement, however, achieved a different kind of immortality. He died from eating a particularly poisonous mushroom. In September 1534, he ate a death-cap mushroom, Amanita phalloides. But here's the kicker. He wasn't foraging in the woods. He specifically ordered a plate of these mushrooms because he thought they were delicious. He liked them so much, he ate them raw. While some historians argue it might have been intentional poisoning, most believe he just had terrible taste. It's a slow, painful way to go, involving total liver failure. It turns out even being the vicar of Christ doesn't give you immunity to poisonous snacks. Number 8. King Adolf Frederick of Sweden. King Adolf Frederick was a powerful monarch of 18th century Sweden. One would expect a man like him to die bravely in battle, or perhaps due to an interesting political intrigue. Oh no. On February 12, 1771, our good King Adolf sat down for a meal consisting of lobster, caviar, sauerkraut, smoked herring, and champagne. But he didn't stop there. He followed that up with 14 servings of his favorite dessert, semla, a sweet bun filled with marzipan and whipped cream. He literally ate himself to death on Fat Tuesday. Swedish history books actually refer to him as the king who ate himself to death. Forget conquering lands, this man conquered the dessert tray. He proved that sometimes the greatest enemy isn't an invading army, but a really, really good pastry chef. Number 9. Pope Adrian IV. The only Englishman to ever sit on the papal throne, Adrian IV didn't die from an assassin's blade or old age. You'd think being the vicar of Christ would protect you from the smaller nuisances of life, but nature is an equal opportunity offender. In 1159, he was walking near Anagni when he took a sip of water, or wine, depending on the source. A fly happened to be doing laps in his cup and got sucked into his throat. It got stuck in his windpipe, and because of a pre-existing throat infection, quinsy, he couldn't cough it out. The Holy Father was taken down by a common housefly. Imagine being the most powerful man in Christendom, only to be taken down by a common housefly. It's the ultimate David versus Goliath story, except David is an insect and Goliath is the Pope. Number 10. King Martin of Aragon. Finally, we have King Martin of Aragon, whose death in 1410 is the ultimate don't laugh while you're eating cautionary tale. Martin was already feeling a bit under the weather due to a massive bout of indigestion, thanks to eating an entire bowl of eels. While he was lying in bed trying to recover from the eel incident, his court jester entered the room. Martin asked where the jester had been, and the jester told a joke about seeing a young deer hanging by its tail from a tree, as if someone had punished it for stealing figs. Martin found this so hilarious that he fell into a fit of uncontrollable laughter that lasted for hours. The combination of the laughter and the undigested eels caused his physical collapse and eventual death. He literally laughed his guts out. So there you have it. From airborne tortoises to polite bladders, history is full of reminders that even the most famous among us can kick the bucket in the most hilariously undignified ways. What's your favorite dumb historical death? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this journey into the absurd annals of history, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next dive into the wonderfully weird past.